This is my friend Typhoon. He's currently increasing his carbon footprint in my survival game, but it doesn't matter. As you can see, it looks like the campfire is burning out over time, but what's really happening is that the game just slowly moves the firewood under the ground to fake the effect. To assert the dominance, Typhoon decides to jump into the water from the biggest hill in the area, and you might think that the game character is swimming, but in reality, things are way more simple and there's just an invisible floor that he walks on. As you might have guessed, today we're going to look behind the scenes, and as Typhoon tries to survive and dominate this world, I'll show you kids how it's really done, because I feel like I've been only listing things that I added and not really explaining how and why they work, and if you're making your own game, feel free to steal some ideas if you like them. Unfortunately, Typhoon got lost in the ocean in the middle of nowhere, so I guess we'll keep with the water theme. You already know that the game character doesn't actually swim but walks on an invisible plane. I made it this way because originally I made this game in just 7 days as a challenge, so I had no time to make a proper swimming mechanic. And I still haven't fixed it, as you can see, but I'm planning to. By the way, unlike the character, the boat and the items have a real physics and float properly. I don't really remember how I made it though, but there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube, so it's not that hard to find. By the way, the water has retracing reflections. As you can see, when I look down, I still can see the reflections, which doesn't happen if you use screen space reflections that most games use. It looks really beautiful, but it's kinda heavy on the performance. That's why I often disable it when I record the gameplay, because my old dusty crusty PC is sweating too much. Okay guys, I low-key lied about the ray tracing. I actually use a second camera to render the reflections, so the objects don't have to be on the screen to get reflected. And if you're using Unity, I'll leave a link in the description for the package I use, because obviously I didn't make it myself. However, if you're gonna use it, after downloading the package, go to the pull requests and fix the script the way this dude suggested, because the reflections might flicker sometimes. Typhoon finally found a land showing his insane navigation and psychic skills, because he found the biome I wanted to talk about. You see, this is the swamp biome, and it's the only biome so far with a unique water color. I thought that the regular blue water didn't match this biome, so I wanted to make it green. However, the water is not actually green here. I just made this sprite that is roughly the same shape as my swamp biome, color it green, and place under the water to make it look like the water itself is green. Sometimes it's visible that the green layer is separate though when the waves don't cover it. I probably could have done something in the shader graph to make it better, but I don't know how to do it, and I don't think it's a big deal. Speaking of things that are smaller than my will to live, Typhoon is mining clay right now, but this is what the view model looks like of the pickaxe is holding. And it's not only the pickaxe, all of the items are like this, just to be clear. As you could see, the head is slightly below average size, and the reason for this is so the items don't clip through the walls. Usually, this bug is fixed by using a second camera that only renders the view model and overlays the main camera, but when I use this method, it doesn't work well with the reflections camera for some reason, so I had to come up with this goofy solution. It works flawlessly though, you wouldn't even know if I didn't tell you. Some games just move the view model away from the wall when they can't use the second camera, but it look arguably worse for my case than clipping through the walls. But what's even worse is that Typhoon is starving and he doesn't have anything to eat. So he grabs a spear and goes into the ocean to try to catch some fish. This time he didn't go far away though, so he doesn't get lost again. Did you know that fish in my game can teleport? Other animals in my game have spawn points where they appear, however it would take forever to place spawn points for fish since the ocean is huge, so they only spawn around the player. This way I can also control how much fish is in the ocean for balancing. Also, I didn't want to tell about it, but there are two fish types in the game. They look almost the same, but one of them is kinda bigger and slower, so it's easy to catch, and the other one is faster and smaller, so it's almost impossible to get them. I made it because I wanted to make the ocean look more alive, but I didn't want to give too much food, you know? Despite all of his tries, Typhoon didn't get to catch any fish. But it's okay because he spotted a pig on a nearby island, and pork is the best food source in the game. By the way, when I was adding animals to my game, I had one huge problem. I had to make them avoid obstacles somehow, and I wasn't enough of a nerd to add a proper pet fighting system, but I didn't want my animals to just get stuck everywhere. So I made every animal shoot 9 invisible rays around themselves to check which way they could go, and choose a random direction from those. Most of the times this method looks natural. It's not like I have mazes in my game, so this trick is more than enough for me. It can look goofy sometimes though. Dying from hunger, Typhoon trick shots the poor pig with a spear, and the pig gave him its meat. Absolute cinema, ladies and gentlemen. Bro would have picked in 2009. Typhoon slept on the ground like a bum, to which he said, and I quote, "The wolf wipes with a sandpaper." But this philosophy didn't last for long because Typhoon decided that he deserves more in life. So he wanted to build a mansion on this beautiful island. However, before that, Typhoon needed to eat again. Unfortunately, he destroyed the whole population of pigs on the island, so he had to eat plants. That's a big bite for a big coconut. You might have noticed that you get coconut health when picking up the whole items. Initially, when I added coconuts to my game, you pick up a whole item, but I changed that because whole coconuts didn't stand out visually that much, and because of my art style, a whole coconut looked like a clay piece. So now when you pick up a coconut from a palm tree, you get 2 coconut health instead of 1 whole item. It's more of a game design choice than a trick, but I still wanted to include it. Speaking of items, all of them have very thick hitboxes. It might be my skill issue, but it was hard and not fun to aim for the hitboxes that are the same size as the models, so I had to extend them a little. Anyway, let's get back to Typhoon, who was building his mansion. For that, he obviously needed to mine some resources, so he started beating the hell out of trees. In lots of games, trees, bushes, rocks, and other natural resources that you mine have hidden health bars that decrease when you hit them, but in my game, they just have a list of items that works like a health bar. For example, when you hit a bush, its amount of items decreases and adds to your inventory. When there's nothing left, the bush is finally counted as destroyed. However, the rabbit hole goes a little deeper because the resources also have toughness, so you can't, for example, mine iron using a stone pickaxe. You have to mine copper first, and only with the copper pickaxe you can finally get iron. The toughness reduces the damage of the tool, so if you mine stone using a copper pickaxe, you get 2 items per hit, but if you mine iron, you get only 1. Speaking of damage, each tool has 4 different damage types: mobs damage, tree damage, bush damage, and rock damage. For example, an iron machete has 6 mob damage, 3 bush damage, 1 tree damage, and 0 stone damage, so it's good for cutting animals and cutting bushes, not very good at cutting trees, and doesn't cut stone at all, which makes sense, and the damage is the amount of items you get per hit. But unfortunately, the game doesn't show you the stats anywhere so far. After mining the resources for a while, Typhoon said that the grind was not for everyone, so he quit, not finishing his mansion. However, he promised to return. If you wanna try the game, the link is in the description. I also released a new update that fixed some bugs and improved the water. Also, if you don't want Typhoon to trick shot a whole family with a spear, check out the video on the screen. Yo.